In this video, we're going to use Minitab 19 to test a hypothesis about a proportion. We're going to do this homework problem as an example. It says, suppose a recent random sample of employees nationwide who have a 401k retirement plan found that 21% of them had borrowed against it in the last year. A random sample of 111 employees from a local company who have a 401k retirement plan found that 15 had borrowed from their plan. Based on the sample results, is it possible to conclude at the alpha equals 0.10 level of significance that the local company had a lower proportion of borrowers from its 401k retirement plan than the 21% reported nationwide? So first we're going to identify our null and alternative hypotheses. So our question is asking if it's possible to conclude that the local company had a lower proportion of borrowers than 21%. That means that our alternative hypothesis is that P is less than 0.21. And so our null hypothesis is the opposite of that. P is greater than or equal to 0.21. So I'm going to choose option B. Now I want to perform the test using a normal approximation and identify the test statistic. The test statistic is another way of saying the z-value. So I'm going to go to Minitab, and we're going to go to Stat, Basic Statistics, and 1 Proportion. I need to change the top menu to Summarize Data. My number of events and number of trials, we have 111 employees that were surveyed, and 15 of them had borrowed from their plan. So 15 is my number of events, and 111 is my number of trials. Then we need to check the Perform Hypothesis Test box. My hypothesized proportion is 0.21. That's what is written in my hypothesis. Then I need to click on Options. I can leave the confidence level alone for this problem since I'm not finding a confidence interval. I want to change the alternative hypothesis box to match my alternative hypothesis. In this case, my alternative hypothesis is that P is less than 0.21. So I'm going to check proportion is less than hypothesized proportion. And then I want to change method, as always, to normal approximation. Whenever you're doing a proportion problem, this is what you will need to do. Then I click OK and click OK again. Here are my results. So under the test area, I see that my z-value, negative 1.94, that would go in my test statistic box. And then my p-value, it says to round to 3 decimal places, which is what I have, 0.026. So now I can form my conclusion. My alpha for this problem was 0.10. Since my p-value is less than alpha, I can reject the null hypothesis. And since I'm rejecting the null hypothesis, this means that I do have evidence to support my claim. So there is sufficient evidence to conclude that the population proportion of employees from the local company who borrowed against their retirement plan is less than 0.21. Because that was my alternative hypothesis, which was what I found evidence for, that the proportion is less than 0.21.